Have you ever looked at a building or maybe a painting and felt a bit lost? Like there's this whole secret language of art history, all those isms, and it just feels, well, maybe a bit overwhelming.
It can definitely seem that way.
Well, today we're kind of aiming to give you a shortcut. Welcome to the Deep Dives.
Glad to be here.
Our mission, as always, is to take our source material, and today that's a really cool timeline of art and architectural movements, plus some summaries of key styles and, pull out the most important bits.
Distill it down, yeah.
Exactly. The idea is to give you a framework, a way to understand how the art and the buildings you see every day sort of evolved without getting totally swamped.
And it's a fascinating journey because these isms, they aren't just labels somebody stuck on later. They really represent big shifts in thinking and culture, how people saw the world.
Right.
And crucially, they don't just line up neatly. They overlap, they argue with each other, they react. It's very dynamic.
Yeah, looking at this timeline, you really see that. It goes from, the mid-1700s right up to now.
That's right.
And it shows this incredibly fast evolution, loads of overlapping periods, like a cascade of ideas, one bumping into the next.
It absolutely is. And the dates themselves tell a story. You see neoclassicism listed as roughly 1750 to 1850.
Okay.
But other movements start cropping up within that time frame. They weren't working in isolation. They developed alongside each other, often pushing against each other. That back and forth is what's so interesting.
But where should we start? Which are the earliest ones we're diving into?
Let's begin with the first big isms on the list here, neoclassicism and romanticism.
Okay, neoclassicism. Kicking off around 1750, lasts about a century.
Right.
What was the core idea here? Why then?
Well, fundamentally, neoclassicism was about looking back. It was a revival of classical ideals, think ancient Greece and Rome.
Order, balance.
Exactly. Order, balance, clarity, civic virtue. It was partly a reaction against the frilliness of Rococo style that came before it, but also fueled by new archaeological finds. Pompeii, Herculaneum, and that whole Enlightenment focus on reason. Think Jacques-Louis David's The Oath of the Herati. Very stoic, very grand, focused on duty.
Right, I can picture that. But then overlapping quite a bit, from around 1790 to 1850, you get Romanticism, and that just sounds like a totally different vibe.
Oh, it was. A huge counterpoint in many ways.
It's sort of a reaction again.
Definitely. Where neoclassicism prized reason and order, romanticism just dives headfirst into emotion, individualism, the power and drama of nature, the sublime.
Intense.
Very intense. Think dramatic scenes, passion, awe. Eugene Delacroix's liberty leading the people. That's pure romanticism. All that energy, movement, fervor.
So right from the start of this period we're looking at, you've got this major tension. Order versus emotion.
Precisely. Classical calm versus romantic storm, you could say. And that tension really sets the stage for a lot of what follows.
Did artists ever, mix the two? Or was it always one camp or the other?
Well, it wasn't always a completely hard line. You might see influences cross over. But generally, yeah, they represented pretty opposing ideals. That push and pull between reason and emotion, structure and freedom, it becomes this engine driving things forward.
Okay, so we have these grand ideas, big emotions, but then moving into the mid-19th century, around 1840 maybe, things shift again with realism. What was driving that change? Why suddenly focus on depicting, quote, real life?
Realism was a very conscious turn towards the everyday, unidealized, unromanticized life.
So less gods and heroes, more regular people.
Exactly. And it was deeply connected to what was happening socially and politically. The Industrial Revolution, urbanization, growing class consciousness, even the invention of photography.
Photography, right. That must have had an impact.
A huge impact. Artists like Gustave Courbet, they were reacting against those idealized scenes. They wanted to show the grit, the labor, the everyday reality that maybe polite society preferred to ignore. Art holding up a mirror.
Like the Stonebreakers.
The Stonebreakers is the perfect example. Raw, direct, forcing you to look at the reality of that labor.
And then, almost overlapping again, from about 1860, we get Impressionism, which for a lot of people is where modern art really starts to feel familiar.
It's definitely a huge turning point.
After realism's focus on, reality, what was the big idea with Impressionism? Capturing light and moments. Was it a reaction to realism or something else?
It was a definite shift in focus, absolutely. Impressionism is all about capturing the impression of a moment, especially the effects of light and atmosphere.
So less about the subject itself, more about how it looks at a particular instant.
Precisely. Artists started painting outdoors on plein air, trying to catch how light changes colors and forms. They used visible brushstrokes, vibrant color, trying to convey that fleeting sensation.
Monet's impression, Sunrise, comes to mind.
The classic example. It even gave the movement its name. And it was revolutionary because it broke so sharply from academic painting, the smooth finish, the historical subjects.
It feels like painting time, almost, rather than just a scene.
That's a great way to put it. Painting perception, the act of seeing itself.
Was that accepted right away, or did people think it looked, I don't know, unfinished?
Oh, initially it got a lot of ridicule. Critics thought it was messy, crude, unfinished, absolutely. But that focus on subjective experience, it paved the way for pretty much everything that came after in modern art. It changed the game.
Okay, so while all that's happening in painting with post-impressionism following on, architecture takes a different turn around 1890 to 1910 with Art Nouveau.
Yeah.
How did that stand out?
Art Nouveau was a conscious break from historical styles and maybe from the coldness of early industrial design, too. It's instantly recognizable, right?
Those curves.
Those curves, whiplash lines, floral motifs, inspiration drawn directly from nature, organic forms.
Like Gaudi in Barcelona.
Gaudi's the prime example. Casa Batlló, it looks almost alive. What's really fascinating is how Art Nouveau aimed to be a total style, bringing that organic beauty into everything. Buildings, furniture, jewelry, posters.
Integrating art into life.
Exactly. A push against mass production, celebrating craftsmanship and natural forms.
Then boom, early 20th century, 1907 or so, Cubism hits the scene. Picasso, Braque. This feels like another massive rupture.
It absolutely was. Cubism fundamentally changed how objects were depicted. Fragmented perspectives.
What does that actually mean, fragmented perspectives?
Well, instead of painting something from one fixed viewpoint, Cubist artists would break it down into geometric shapes, like cubes and cones, and then reassemble it on the canvas, showing multiple angles all at once.
So you're seeing the front, the side, maybe the top, all kind of mashed together.
Sort of, yeah. Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon is that key explosive work. It just shattered traditional representation. It wasn't just a new style. It was questioning how we see, how we represent reality itself. Huge influence on abstract art later on.
Okay, let's pivot more towards architecture now. Modernism. Big period, roughly 1920s to the 1940s. And the famous phrase, form follows function. Sounds simple, but what did that actually mean for buildings and cities?
It meant stripping away ornament. Prioritizing utility, efficiency, honesty of materials, clean lines, flat roofs, open interior spaces.
Le Corbusier.
Le Corbusier is central. His Villa Savoy is iconic, up on stilts, open plan, ribbon windows, roof garden. Modernism aimed to use new materials like steel and reinforced concrete to create rational, functional spaces. It promised a cleaner, more ordered, maybe even healthier way of living, trying to solve urban problems.
Did it always work out that way?
Well, that's the debate, isn't it? It definitely reshaped cities with skyscrapers and housing projects. But sometimes that focus on pure function could lead to spaces that felt sterile or impersonal, lost some of the human touch, perhaps.
Which might explain what comes next. Because after that clean modernism, we get brutalism, roughly 1950s to 70s. That sounds harsh.
It looks harsh to many people. Brutalism took modernism's honesty about materials and structure and just amplified it. Think massive, exposed, raw concrete, that's béton brut, where the name comes from.
Right, raw concrete.
Bold, monumental, almost sculptural forms, often showcasing the building's structure very obviously. It aimed for a kind of heroic, honest aesthetic. Le Corbusier pops up again with his work in Chandigarh, India. Huge, powerful concrete structure.
Imposing is definitely the word. Okay, so then reacting against that maybe, we get postmodernism, 70s into the 90s, in both art and architecture. This feels like a swing back the other way.
Absolutely a reaction. Postmodernism basically said, okay, enough with the strict rules and the seriousness of modernism.
Have some fun.
Exactly. Playful forms, irony, mixing historical references, bringing back color and decoration, sometimes in a witty or even kitschy way. It rejected that idea that form had to follow function rigidly.
Any key examples?
Michael Graves's Portland building is a classic postmodern piece, with its colorful facade and decorative elements that modernists would have hated. It embraced complexity, contradiction, a bit of humor even. There wasn't just one right way to design anymore.
Pluralism.
Yes, pluralism is a key word.
And then, sticking with architecture, from the 80s onward, we have deconstructivism. Architects like Frank Gehry. What's being deconstructed here?
It's about taking architectural forms apart, visually at least. Challenging ideas of harmony, stability, structure. Buildings look fragmented, disjointed, maybe like they're collapsing or exploding.
Sounds chaotic.
It can look chaotic, but it's very deliberate. It's exploring instability, nonlinear shapes. Gary's Guggenheim Bilbao is the ultimate example. All those flowing, clashing titanium curves. It completely breaks down traditional ideas of walls and roofs and structure, creates a really dynamic, sometimes unsettling, but often beautiful experience.
Wow. It's like architecture becomes sculpture on a massive scale.
In many ways, yes. Pushing the limits of form and engineering.
So looking back at the timeline, the most recent entries listed from the 2000s to today are contemporary movements like neoconceptualism and ecoism. Our sources don't go into detail, but just seeing them listed tells us.
It tells us the conversation is still going on, absolutely. Isms are still emerging, evolving. Art and architecture never stand still. They're always responding to new technologies, new social concerns, environmental issues.
Like ecoism, presumably focusing on sustainability.
One would assume so, yes.
Yeah.
It reflects our current preoccupations. This whole process is alive, constantly shaping the world we see around us.
What a trip through the isms. Seriously, from classical order to, well, deconstructivist chaos almost. Emotional highs, functional lows. Raw concrete.
Yes, quite the range.
Seeing it all laid out like this, the way each movement seems to talk to the others, what's the main thing you take away from it?
For me, it reinforces that these aren't just dusty historical categories. They're evidence of this continuous dialogue, this ongoing human effort to make sense of the world and express something about it, reacting to what came before. And understanding even the basics gives you, the viewer, this amazing lens.
A way to decode things.
Exactly. A lens to appreciate what's going on, whether you're in a gallery looking at a canvas or just walking down the street looking at a building. You start to see the choices that were made.
So for everyone listening, what's the practical application here?
Start looking. Seriously, next time you encounter a piece of art or architecture, pause for a second. Ask yourself, does this feel ordered or emotional? Is it functional or playful? Do I see geometric shapes or flowing curves? What ism does it maybe echo and why?
So spot the signs.
Spot the signs. See if you can recognize the raw concrete of brutalism or the fragmented view of Cubism or maybe the decorative fun of postmodernism in your own surroundings.
And maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. These isms, they're not just labels for the past, are they?
Not at all. They're a record of humanity constantly searching for new ways to express who we are and how we see the world. Which leads to the question.
What's next?
What's next? What new isms do you think are bubbling up right now, trying to capture the spirit of our times? What will people be talking about 50 years from now?